Welcome to the next installment of the Miami Group Sierra Club Virtual Backpack Series.
My name is Denise Tingle, or my trail name is Pippi Longstocking, and I have been camping, hiking, backpacking for about 45 plus years. I am the hiking committee chair for the Miami Group Sierra Club, along with an instructor for the backpacking school. I also lead cycling rides and backpacking trips. My passion is backpacking and cycling and love being in the outdoors. Nancy?
Thanks, Denise, and welcome everybody. My name is Nancy Ball, and I've been camping and hiking forever, and backpacking and leading trips since 2005 to destinations both close to home and all over the world. This year I launched a new business planning and leading adventure trips, and my company name is Summit Trek and Travel. And we're also joined today by Brian Wolf.
Thank you, guys. My name is Brian, and I know some of you through Roads, Rivers, and Trails, which I started with my cousin and her husband about almost 10 years ago now. So I have the pleasure of being part of people's experience, outdoor experiences every day, which is fantastic. And avid backpacker and kayaker and just about anything to get me outside. So hope to meet you if I haven't already.
And also we have Barry Randall, but he wasn't able to join us this evening. Okay, so let's talk about safety. We have a question for you to get the ball rolling. What do you think might the most common danger, accident, or injury that results in an emergency evacuation in the backcountry? Think about that for a moment, then please type your answer in the chat box, and I'll give you a few moments to do that.
I see tripping and dehydration.
Falls, twisted ankle injury, hypothermia.
Unpreparedness.
It's a good answer.
It is a good answer.
Yeah. We'll give you just another moment or two. I know there's some more of you out there. Type in the answer for us.
So we'd like to know what you think the most common trip-ending injury is.
Burns while cooking. That's a good one too.
It's a good answer. So.
Any type of leg or foot injury.
Does wanting pizza count? Like just.
Yeah, like you want it so bad, you got to end the trip. Like it's time to get off. Yeah. It's not exactly an injury though, Brian.
Okay.
Maybe it doesn't really count.
Okay.
Okay.
I think we
got enough of a sampling there, Denise?
Yes. So it won't be a disaster. While we have a tendency to focus on possibilities of disaster scenarios, such as bear attack, fall from a climb onto your head, piercing a body part with a sharp stick, snake bite, catching your tent on fire, cutting off a limb.
It probably won't be one of those things. But don't worry, that's actually that's not a real hand. Take a look at the difference. We got the hand spread out, and we got thumbs up. That's a fake arm that you're looking at there. That's not for real. We just wanted to have a little fun with that. So go ahead, Denise.
All right, the correct answer is, survey says, burns on your feet. The good news is that this and most common trip-ending injuries are totally preventable, and that's what we'll focus on for the first half of this webinar. So yes, most trip-ending injuries can be prevented, and prevention is the first rule of safety in the backcountry. Since we just told you that burns on feet are the #1 cause of those trip-ending injuries, let's start there. Burns on the feet usually happen in cooking accidents, and usually when a stove gets kicked over and boiling water pours over someone's feet. It could be a person walking by, or it could be the person cooking who gets burned. Some easy measures to prevent these from happening is to give some thought to how you set up your fire ring and cooking space. Let's look at this whole area where the people you see here are preparing their meals. We'll call this bigger circle the fire circle. Inside the fire circle is a smaller ring of rocks to enclose the campfire. Notice that people are seated well back from the fire, giving space for some limit walking around the inside the seating area, but outside the fire ring. Notice the kitchen setup. People have their stoves set up inside the fire ring, but close to seating areas and not in the middle where other people are apt to be walking. In addition to setting up stoves out of the area where people are walking, minimize walking around the fire circle. You can't avoid it entirely, but if you're walking, say, from one tent to another, go around the fire circle instead of cutting through it. And when you're in the fire circle and need to go from one side to the other, resist the temptation to corner cut the fire ring itself. Some of those stoves are bound to be loose. Most of the other types of injuries people encounter can also be prevented. Most accidents happen, for example, when people get low on fuel or a bit dehydrated, either of which can cause people to get a little shaky and make them more likely to make a mistake in judgment, or even just find themselves just a little too clumsy to make a certain physical move. You're more likely to stumble, for instance. In fact, I know that when I start to experience those toe catchers on the trail, it's a sign I need to stop and eat, drink, or take a rest break. Another prime time for accidents is near the end of the day. People are tired, but close to camp and want to push on. This is when most accidents happen. Even if you're careful and use reasonable precautions, sometimes things will go wrong anyway. The second rule of safety is stop when things do go wrong. Take care of small problems before they become big problems. Some minor issues that can become big problems, if not addressed right away, are things like what you see on your screen. Here in the image on the left is a former hotspot that didn't get treated before it became a blister. The blister was allowed to grow and burst, and now the hiker may have difficulty in walking at a normal pace or even walking at all. He or she is also now in danger of developing an infection. And on the right, you see the result of wearing a boot that was not laced tightly enough on a downhill section of a trail. A boot that isn't laced properly as you go downhill can lead to a busted toenail or blister that can make walking at a normal pace difficult, a turned ankle, or a stumble, which can lead to a fall. As soon as you feel a hot spot coming on or feel your toes hitting the end of your boot, or any other type of pain, remember, pain is your brain's signal that there is a problem. Stop and take care of it. A hot spot is a nuisance. A blister like the one you see here has the potential to end your trip. Now we have a fun pool for you here. Which of these are possible outcomes of this former hot spot turned blister? Ryan, will you launch the poll, please? Thank you.
You got it.
Which of these are possible outcomes of this blister? And please check all that apply or multiple choice. The blister will turn into a callus, making your foot tougher, but not right away. The burr's blister leaves your body open to infection. The pain of walking may slow you down and prevent you from reaching your next planned water source or a food drop on time. If you cover it with new skin or use a blister kit, it won't hurt any longer. And the pain of this blister may decrease your agility on rocky trails, possibly leading to further injury, or all the above. Well, we got this poll going pretty strong here.
By the way, that second one, there's a typo there. That's supposed to say the burst blister.
Yeah.
leaves your body open to infection. I don't know what a burr's blister is. Something new.
A burr in a blister sounds
Yeah.
awful.
That sounds really bad.
Yeah.
Really bad. We got 15 of 19 people, 78% voted. Give you all about 10 more seconds. See if we have a couple more to chime in. Somebody texted me that they were eating their dinner, so maybe they don't have a hand free to type in answers right now. Okay.
All right,
How
I'll
about if
close
I
it
go?
up here.
All right.
Okay, what do we have there? So we have about 27% for the blister will turn into a callus. The other is the burst blister leaves your body open to infection, 73%. And we got a tie with the pain of walking may slow you down and prevent you from reaching your next planned water source. Then we have another one at 73%. The pain of this blister may decrease your agility on rocky, tricky trails, possibly leading to further injury. And then we have all the above at 27% and 7% if you cover it with new skin or use a blister kit, it won't hurt any longer. So those were some good answers, definitely.
So as we go through this next little bit here, instead of just telling you which ones are correct, Denise is going to read you a description that'll let you see for yourself how well you did on that.
Yeah. Contrary to a myth I've heard repeated by some, a blister will not become a callus. Once a dead skin has separated from the raw skin under it, it cannot grow back over. So this blister is open to infection and to a lot of pain. There is not first aid treatment or product that will make this not hurt. With a blister this sort, the pain of walking will slow you down, which means you will be arriving at your next planned stop later than planned. It will also make your pace less stable, which can lead to further injury as you continue walking.
Oh,
Brian, do you want to stop sharing those results so they can see the rest of the screen?
I think we did that already. It's just showing on yours, Denise.
It's just on mine. I need to drop that. I apologize.
That's okay.
As another example of the dangers of not taking care of a problem at the onset, let's say you misjudged how much water you would need and now your water bottle is empty. It's a hot day and a hard hike, but you don't want to ask the group to stop so that you can filter more water for a refill. Or let's say your snack bag is down in your pack where it's hard to get to instead of in your hip pouch where you meant to put it. Again, it's a challenging hike and you know your body needs fuel, but you're reluctant to ask your friends to stop while you take off your pack to get what you need. But here's the thing. Being thirsty is one thing, ignoring it can lead to dehydration. Dehydration can be very dangerous. Even being a little dehydrated can start to affect your judgment. The same is true for hunger. Being hungry is one thing, but running out of fuel or having a low blood sugar episode can lead to increased fatigue and accidents. You're not doing yourself or your hiking companions any favors by ignoring any issue you are having. Trust us on this. Your friends would rather wait for you to get food or water than have to administer first aid or evacuate with you because of an accident. Next week, we will talk about some simple first aid measures that you should be prepared for when things go wrong. So now we're back to the questions. We'll pause a moment here to answer any few questions that people have already typed into the chat box.
Denise, no questions yet. We've had some good dialogue with some of your questions some stories about being too close to the fire, but no questions yet. If anybody has any, feel free to throw them up there, though.
We'll stop again at the end of the presentation as well. So if you think of more questions as we go along, if they come to you later on, don't worry, you'll have another chance to ask them. And we'll do a live Q&A at the very end as well. So it'll be good. I don't see anybody typing. I see somebody saying that the picture was making them sick.
Yeah.
I assume that was of the blister on the heel. That was a pretty ugly one.
Yeah.
Okay.
I did see where Renee said that when she burned a sneaker as a teenager when trying to drying them, after my sister dumped me out of a canoe in the Delaware River. At least my feet weren't in them. But that is another where accidents happen, is people try to dry their wet boots or whatever on a stick over the fire, and then, you know, somebody might walk in that space, knock the stick over, and their boot gets in the fire, and then they act quickly and get burned because they trying to get their boot. So that's another dangerous spot, though, is when you're trying to dry your wet stuff.
Thanks, Denise. So, okay, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next section of this presentation, which is about backpacking hygiene. And again, we kind of want to hear from you first. And this time what I'd like to know is, from your perspective, what concerns you the most? What are you the most worried about, want the most information about, most concerned about in terms of anything to do with hygiene in the backcountry? And again, I'd like you to use the chat box to type your answers in, if you would, please, so that we can all see what some of those concerns are. And I'll give you a couple moments to do that. I know you're all thinking. And you don't have to zero in on just one thing. If you've got two things, don't worry about prioritizing. Something biting me on the butt when I go potty at night. Worried about packing out poop. Okay, yep. What else we got? Having enough TP. I know there are more out there. We have, I think, about 20, close to 20 people on here, so I'll give you all a few more minutes to clue us in on what concerns you might have. I wish I could tell when people are actually typing.
Always worried I'll have to pee in the middle of the night. Just take your flashlight.
Stinky mates. Ooh, yeah.
Yeah. Another good one is snoring.
Ill, potting in the backcountry, not sitting right, and it gets on my pants.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. All right. So, eating something that does not agree with my stomach. Oh, that's Brian. Yeah, and that can lead to all kinds of issues, right? Properly cleaning and drying feet. Yeah. I'm a newbie. I don't know what to ask. Well, you're going to get so much good information here. That's from Marianne. A bad hair day. Brian.
Not Brian.
Okay. Well, I can tell you all are being honest with this. Oh, sandwich out here so many years ago. Good thing I had a flashlight. Porcupine on the seat. Wow. Okay. Interesting. Okay, well, thanks for cluing us in. As suspected, most of the questions have to do with using the bathroom. And I can tell you honestly, you know, the people that, friends of mine who are not backpackers, that's the #1 thing people bring up as the biggest reason why they don't want to backpack. Or the thing they're mostly worried about is, you know, what happens if I have to go while we're in the woods? And first of all, hopefully you will go, because if you're going to be backpacking, you really should be eliminating things from your body. And we're going to talk about what bears do, but we're going to begin with talking a little bit about just hygiene in general. Excuse me. We'll call it keeping yourself cleanish in the backcountry. So somebody mentioned, oh, it was Brian, talked about having a bad hair day. It reminded me of a pretty funny Facebook discussion I saw on one of the backpacker groups on Facebook, where a woman who I have to assume really was not a backpacker wanted to know what all the other women on the trip did to keep up their beauty routine while they were backpacking, which, as you might guess, elicited a number of pretty snarky replies. So I won't go into that too much, but it was kind of funny. The truth is that most of the experienced backpackers that I know keep this really, really simple. And the 4 things that you see on the list there may be all that you even choose to do. That's kind of the basics there. Hand sanitizer, make sure you do sanitize your hands at critical times. So that would be after toileting and before preparing food or before eating food. Take care of your teeth. So go keep up your normal routine of brushing and flossing every day. Usually a few personal wipes, like those wet ones, baby wipes, dude wipes, whatever you want to carry with you, will take care of other cleanup needs. And that might just be like, you know, let's say, you know, you got your leg exposed to poison ivy and you need something to wipe it off. Or perhaps if you're going to be out for multiple days, some of the areas of your body that tend to harbor bacteria could use a little bit of wiping with a personal wipe. Or things like you get your feet or your legs muddy and just want to wipe it down a little bit before you drag all that dirt into your tent or into your sleeping bag. I can tell you for myself, I usually allow myself at the most 3 wipes per day. Usually it's more like 2 wipes per day, and I usually end up bringing some home. I just don't use it all that much. But I do have a tip for you about the personal wipes. It used to be, you know, you open the package up and then you go to use it the next time and they've dried out. And I used to just be like, oh, shoot, I got to buy a new pack of them, and I'd throw it away. And then somebody told me that they actually dry theirs out on purpose, because when they dry out, the only thing that's happened is the water has evaporated, and you can add water back to it, and they're actually lighter to carry when there's no water in them. So this person that clued me into that would dry hers out on purpose and then just dampen them before she used them, which I thought, well, that's pretty good. I don't dry mine out on purpose, but I no longer throw them away when they do get dried out. And then the last thing on this very short, very basic list is keep your nails short, and especially your toenails. You saw what happened to the toenail on that one picture in the first part of this presentation. Your toes, the ends of your toes will get really sore, and you can end up losing toenails for sure if your toenails get just a little bit too long. So whenever I go on a trip, that's one of the first things I do is make sure my toenails are really short. And then if I'm going to be out for a number of days, I take my toenail clippers with me. So some other items besides this short list of 4 things to think about that you may want to consider for your toiletry kit. And I'm going to say truly, in some cases, sunblock and or insect repellent is a must. You really want to have those if you're going to be backpacking in the summertime where sun exposure is likely to happen. If you're going to be in an area where the insects are, which is pretty much anywhere in the woods unless it's in the middle of the winter, you want to have insect repellent. But the rest of the things on the list, it's totally a personal choice whether you feel like carrying them or not, whether it bothers you to have them or not have them. My one guilty pleasure on here is some kind of lotion or moisturizer, because I get really dry skin, but sometimes I forget to use it even if I do take it. These other things on the list, deodorant, comb, camp soap towel, I've actually stopped carrying any of those. Deodorant only is effective for maybe the first half hour before you've sweated through it, and you whoever said they were worried about stinky mates, I can pretty much guarantee you if you're backpacking with other people, you're going to have stinky mates. Everybody's going to be stinky, and you will be too, and you just won't even notice it, honestly. And whether you have deodorant on or not, you're not going to smell any fresher after just a very short time of hiking. I'm lucky enough that I have short hair. I could comb my hair, but as soon as I put a hat on, it's all undone anyway, and I finally just quit even carrying a comb. Camp soap I stopped taking because even camp soap and soaps that are biodegradable, they still pollute water sources and streams. And so I try not to use them at all and just instead use just plain water. And camp towel for myself, anything I would use a camp towel for, anything I'm going to get wet, I would probably just dry off with the bandana. And the camp towel is like just an extra bulk and extra weight that I personally choose not to carry. Now, everybody has a different take on these. I know Denise, because she's got long hair, and a lot of it, she really needs to have her comb with her. But it's totally up to you. Each item on here is just a personal choice. And no matter what you do, you're not going to end up smelling like a rose within an hour or two, no matter how cleanish you started off for the day anyway. So we now have a second poll for you, and this has to do with Leave No Trace. Some of you may have been on our very first webinar back in March, back in May when we started doing them, when we covered Leave No Trace. But if you weren't, you perhaps already have an understanding of these things. So Brian, if you would go ahead and launch poll number 2. The question is, which of these practices are consistent with Leave No Trace principles? And this is multiple choice, so pick as many answers as you think are correct. And this one should go fairly quickly, so we'll give you 15, 20 seconds, something like that, and then we'll go through the answers. So we've got use unscented products, If you use soap near a water source, make sure it is biodegradable. Overspray insect repellent so that it extends to the open area around you for better insect control. Oh, there's another typo. Repackage or use small containers of products like sunblock and toothpaste so that you bring only what you need. The answers are starting to flow in now.
Oh, yeah.
I'll give you about, oh, I'm going to say 7 more seconds.
You didn't fool anybody with that number 3.
Yeah.
I know nobody has picked that, have they? I'm kind of glad to see that. All right. You want to go ahead and click in polling there, Brian? And then if you would click share the results so everybody can see it. Cool. Okay. You all did pretty well, but let me just read through a couple of things that I would think about. First of all, use unscented products. Yes, probably enough said there, but yeah, it's just like, you know, the rest of the world doesn't want to be, doesn't want their, what's the word? Auditory? What's it for your nose? They don't want to smell your good smelly stuff. They don't want to smell it either. So that's something you just keep to yourself. So you don't need flowery stuff. The second one, actually, even biodegradable soaps will contaminate fresh water. So the real correct answer in there would be no, just don't use any soap near a water source, regardless of whether it's biodegradable or not. So that includes the stuff that's sold as camp soap. It will still pollute the water. Overspray insect repellent, you guys got that. Yeah, take care not to overspray that, or sunblock, so that it only, whatever you use only ends up on your body and nobody else's, and not in the general area. And looks like pretty much almost everybody answered the last one, which I would agree. You only want to take what you need with you. First of all, who wants to carry the extra weight? Second of all, you end up with less waste and less need to get rid of waste if you only take small amounts of things. So cool. I'm going to stop sharing results on that, and we'll make that box go away. And move on to the next slide. And now we're going to get to the fun part. So where do you go when you got to go? As I said before, one of the biggest questions that comes up, one of the bigger mental hurdles for some people to conquer in order to embrace backpacking and hiking, is the concern over how to do your business in the woods. But we're here to tell you it really is no big deal. This is an area where leave no trace principles are very important. In terms of managing human waste, there are 4 key objectives, and you'll see them on the screen here. Avoid polluting water sources, eliminate contact with insects and animals, maximize decomposition, and minimize the chances of social impact. Again, no worries though, we're going to tackle this topic and you'll see how those things get done in the course of it. So a common concern for new backpackers is this, and you know what, don't worry, I promise you it is not going to end up looking like this. When you do need to go, there are much better ways of doing it than what was attempted here in this picture. It seriously is not a problem, but I did think the picture was kind of fun. So first of all, let's talk about where you should go to go. So if you're going to be doing your business in the backcountry, you need to be 200 feet, which is about the same as 70 adult steps, away from everything. So that means away from your camp and kitchen area, away from any water sources, and away from any trails. And that's going to be right there, is going to take care of most of those objectives, those key objectives that we just talked about: avoiding polluting water sources, minimizing the chance of social impact, and it will also help to an extent with not coming into contact with insects and animals. We're going to talk about that a little bit more. Let me just say this. So for solid human waste, this is an absolute must. For the non-solid human waste, this is ideal, but not everyone adheres to it strictly. So let's just get into that right now and talk about number 1. And let me say at the outset that it is for sure a little more challenging for women than it is for men, because we are not equipped with that special equipment that keeps your sock tops from getting stained yellow. But no worries, because we do have some tips for you. The first one would be to practice your chair squats. If you do yoga or Pilates, you're already ahead of the game. But if not, this is what a chair squat looks like. So anybody who was talking about missing things and perhaps ending up with decorating your socks in the process, mastering a chair squat is going to help you with that. it'll not only develop the muscles you need to keep your socks dry, but it will also give you some really shapely quads that'll help you scamper up those hills with a full pack. But you don't have to wait till your quads are built up before you give backpacking a try. Some other techniques that you can use right away would be to do the same chair squat move, but do a tree grasp squat where you're holding on to a tree to give yourself balance and then all the weight is not on your legs. Or even if you can find the right spot to do this, a one cheek rock squat where you're basically using a rock to rest the side of one cheek up against it, again, to give you better balance and keep you from your legs from giving out. By the way, when you pop a squat, take a look down at the location of your feet relative to the shadow of your bum. And if you think about it a little bit, you'll understand that your boots should not be directly downhill of that shadow. So just think about that one a little bit, because the liquids do run downhill. Now, there is also a techie gadget, actually several versions of it, that are called FUDs, or feminine urinary devices, that involve funnels and spouts and tubes. And we do know some women who have used those in order to tap a kidney without having to leave their tents at night. But they don't seem to be all that commonly used, actually. They are available at outdoor stores if you want to give them a try, but don't feel like you need to do this. Peeing in the woods is really not that difficult. Another special note for women is about drying, which unfortunately doesn't happen just automatically. So some options are, first one obviously is air dry, but yeah, no, not so effective, especially not if you're out on a multi-day trip. You will end up smelling like an outhouse and possibly developing, we'll just call it a taco burner. Another option is panty liners, which if you wear panty liners, they can catch the drips instead of your unmentionables catching the drips, and then you can remove them later and put them in your waist bag. A technique that I discovered several years ago, which is fantastic, is to use a pee bandana, and this is a real thing. So all it is just a standard bandana, which you use to pat things dry, and then you hang it on the outside of your pack to air dry. Urine is actually sterile, and the ammonia will dissipate in the sun so that the bandana will be clean and fresh as new by the end of the day, and it really and truly is. The only time that that doesn't happen is if you have a really wet, rainy day and you can't hang your pack out in the sun, or you can't hang it to air out on the back of your pack. Not your pack, the bandana. A company called Kula Cloth recently came out with an improvement over the pee bandana, and the Kula Cloth, which you see, Kula Cloth, I can't say it, which you'll see here in the third picture, is a small square of material that has an attractive design on the outside and an antimicrobial inner surface. It's used like a pee bandana, and it also hangs on the outside of your pack to dry and air out. The antimicrobial inner surface is nice, especially if you plan to be out on a long trip lasting several days. Again, it's nice, but a bandana is really all that you need. We'll bring men back into the discussion now because this part is for men and women both. I mentioned it earlier, but I'll say it again. Make sure you use the hand sanitizer after you're doing your business. The urine itself may be sterile, but the body parts that you might need to handle during the process are prime bacteria harboring areas. So hand sanitizer is called for. Okay, now I said before, this is the same where to go graphic that we had before, and this is an absolute must for solid waste. It is also ideal for liquid waste. It's the best practice for all human disposal, but we do know a lot of people who just opt for the closest tree. In general, this doesn't have a huge impact, but it is important to know that animals are attracted to the salts in urine, and they will dig up the ground to get to it. So a couple things to consider wherever you go. Try to find a rock or other hard surface which the animals won't dig up, so that'll discourage digging. Second thing would be to avoid vegetation so that fragile plants don't get dug up. And the third would be to go far enough off the trail and away from the campsite so that animals are not attracted to those areas. There are some special areas where these instructions are even more important. Sometimes there are additional instructions. So especially in the tundra and above the tree line, making sure that you aim for rocks or other durable surfaces is really important because the mosses and lichens and other vegetation in those areas are truly very fragile. And if you're hiking in the desert, again, choose rocks and be especially careful to avoid biological soil crust, which are extremely fragile and take decades to form. Another special situation would be if you're hiking along a riverbank, especially in any kind of a narrow gorge. This was along, the picture you see here was down along the Colorado River at the bottom of the Grand Canyon. So if you're someplace, especially like in a narrow gorge where the river's flow volume is large enough to dilute anything that you might add to it, the best practice is to urinate directly into the river. And that helps to avoid issues from overusing the narrow strip of land around where people might be camping and hiking in these narrow river gorges, especially in a tight canyon like this. And if you ever walk into an area where people have overused it instead of using the water, your nose will let you know exactly what's going on there. Okay, so enough about number one. We're going to move on to number two, managing solid human waste. This takes a little more effort because unfortunately we don't have the same amount of freedom in this area as bears do. But a couple of things, and for starters, pay attention to your body signals, especially if you're one of those people who, when you gotta go now, because finding and preparing a place to go, even though it isn't hard to do, it's not as quick as it is at home. And remember, one more time, we'll repeat this, 200 feet, which is the same as about 70 adult steps away from all trails, all campsites, and all water sources. So how do you do this? Let's go step by step. So you've selected a site that's 200 feet away from everything, and you begin by digging a cat hole. The cat hole should be 6 to 8 inches deep and about the same across. Once you have dug the cat hole, you assume the position. Think about the discussion we had about the various types of squats, and make your deposit. Once you've completed that and you tidy yourself up and recover the full moon, you're going to cover the waste with the dirt that you excavated. Oh, I'm sorry, there's the squat. You're going to cover the spot that you excavated with the dirt that you dug out of that spot, and then you're going to camouflage it with leaves and maybe some small twigs. Don't put rocks over it because that will only serve to slow down the decomposition. It'll just take longer for things to become soil again. And what about your TP? Pack out all TP and all other hygiene products. So just what do you do with your TP? Again, we say pack it out. There will be some places where you backpack and camp where the brochures and the signs and the rangers may tell you, well, it's okay if you bury it as long as you buried it at least 8 inches deep, or it's okay to burn it. But we say, please just don't. First of all, things never burn completely. And second of all, if you bury it, getting it 8 inches deep is a problem, number one. And even if you do, animals will be attracted to that. And all too often it happens that they dig it up and then they string toilet paper around. And just imagine, you stop for a lunch break and you sit down in a shady spot under a tree and you see something like what you see around this rock here. Once you've hiked on a popular trail where a lot of people have buried their little moon squares, you're going to agree too. Everybody should always just pack out their TP and wipes and anything else that is not human waste. So that applies to all sanitary products as well. Pack them out. So all kidding aside, we want to take a lighthearted approach to this, but human waste can contaminate water sources and it does pose a health risk to other people. For example, it can lead to the spread of giardia in groundwater. We like to have fun, but we do take this issue very seriously. We're in the backcountry and we would like to ask you to please do the same. And I'll say thank you for that. So what do you need to have with you in order to do all this stuff? Well, over in the top right-hand side, the top picture, you can see this little gold colored bag. That's actually my toileting bag. It's just a small stuff sack. It's just big enough to hold these materials. The first thing is a trowel, and you see it's just a very inexpensive, sturdy plastic trowel, which, by the way, the blade on this trowel is 6 inches long. So when I'm digging a cat hole that's 6 to 8 inches, I've got a way of measuring it to make sure that I'm getting this hole deep enough. Secondly is camping toilet paper. It doesn't actually have to be specifically camping toilet paper. Any toilet paper will do, but camping toilet paper is thinner, and so it kind of rolls up. A lot of it will roll up onto a small roll, which is nice when you're backpacking trying to minimize what you're carrying. This particular one comes in this little super light throwaway plastic container, which again is not important. It just kind of keeps it, it's a little easier to keep from dropping it on the ground. Waste bags. So the waste bag in this case is just a simple Ziploc baggie. Some people like to disguise or camouflage their waste bag by putting duct tape over the outside of it. That just makes it a little less unpleasant to look at when you have to get it out to add more to it later on, but it's not a necessary step. Hand sanitizer, which you can see is being applied here. And then inside this bag also there are some wipes. What you don't see here, but that would be hanging on the outside of my pack, would be either a pea bandana or a Kula cloth. And then lastly, I want to mention this, this bright orange bandana. Actually, that's one of my RRT buffs. I'm sorry, no, it's not. It's a Sierra Club buff that's hanging on a tree branch. I use that to help make sure I don't lose the trail. There have been enough people that I've heard of that have gotten off the trail to do their business and actually gotten lost. And in fact, a few years ago, there was a woman on the Appalachian Trail who died. She got off the trail just to use the bathroom and couldn't find the trail again and ended up starving to death before anybody found her. And part of the problem is that, you know, if you're going to go find a spot 200 feet away to do your business, you want to be out of sight of the trail because you don't want people to see you. But that also means you can't see the trail. So what I like to do is I hike to a point where I can still see the trail. And just before I lose sight of the trail, I'll hang something bright in the tree. And then I can walk off further. And as long as I don't go, as long as I can still see this orange flag hanging from the tree, all I have to do is get back to that and I'll be able to see where the trail is again. So that's just, I tend to be a little bit directionally challenged. So that's one of the things that I do to make sure that I can always find my way back. Okay, so that was a whole lot of stuff that I went through really fast, and we're going to stop here, excuse me, and see if we have any questions in the chat box now that people would like to have answered.
I would also, Nancy, like to mention that always be sure wherever you go, you know, before you start digging your hole or you're going to pee, make sure you know you're not going near a wasp's nest or you know, anything like that. You just want to make sure when you get started that you're not going to be interrupted. So just really make sure that the area is kind of safe before you start venturing in.
Good idea. I might also add, watch out for leaves of 3, right?
Yeah.
And Renee brought that up in the comments. We had a few really good comments. Watch out for poison ivy. Thank you for that. We also had Becky. We had odors for 500 points. We were looking for the word. It was olfactory.
Oh, thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Becky. And also from Becky mentioning that with winter backpacking, some of those tools like the Go Girl could be a little bit more useful just to be less exposed.
Very good. You guys are all right on it. And yes, I see somebody ask, are you saying poop on the rock? Absolutely not. No, no, no. That always gets buried 6 to 8 inches underneath of soil.
Marty said I found black opaque odor blocking Ziploc bags on Amazon. That would be a good thing to have.
Nice.
Yeah.
Especially if they're light.
Yeah, it's not the lightest, but a lot of the time we'll duct tape around a Ziploc bag, both reinforcing it so you're not paranoid about it breaking open and you're not paranoid about seeing other people seeing your business or dirty paper. And so just duct taping around a Ziploc and carrying that out with you.
Mm-hmm.
Right, right. Okay. So I'm going to turn it over to Brian now to kind of take us home with this.
All right.
And
I can do poll number 2.
okay, Denise can take care of the poll.
All right. So, well, guys, thank you. That concludes the presentation, but hang around for a few more minutes. How did we do? We hope you found a few new ideas that you could use. Oh, that guy.
Yep, I just launched the poll.
Thank you. We have one more poll for you. Thank you. That's right there. Please let us know how many new things you heard today, how many surprises or new ideas you got from this presentation. While While you are completing this last poll, I'll mention again that we will post a PDF copy of this presentation. Just did it actually, along with a backpacking gear list. That's not posted, but I think it's on the Sierra Club site. That's in the chat box, a PDF of this presentation. You'll also find a schedule of future webinars posted there within 3 business days. We'll also post a link on the same page to a recording of this webinar, along with responses to any questions we didn't answer for you today. Again, we're going to have some more Q&A, so hopefully we just get to all of that. When you're thinking about your questions, I want to let you know that we plan to host several more webinars on a variety of topics such as trip planning, navigation, map reading, knots, and more. So check back in. If there's a particular topic you'd be interested in, please use the chat box to let us know as well. If there's something that we're not covering that you want to know about. If you love the outdoors as much as we do, we'd love to have you join us exploring, enjoying, and protecting the planet. Some easy ways to do this are, 1, become a Sierra Club member. You'll see the link on the screen there and in the PDF as well. Make a donation, join our meetup group, or become a volunteer. All great ways to help participate and help our mission. We'll place a link in the chat box to the page with a PDF copy of the presentation. You can download that to access these links. And lastly, if you are already an experienced outdoors person with skills to share, we would love to have you join us on the outings committee. We are looking for outings leaders who have a passion for sharing their experience with others. Right now, we are doing this virtually through our webinar series, but someday, we're going to be back out about on the trails and waterways in person again. The outings committee has a lot of fun, so consider joining us if you'd like, please. And lastly, the presentation has been brought to you by our sponsors here. So Roads, Rivers, and Trails, our local independently owned outdoor outfitter in Milford, Ohio, and also by Miami Group Sierra Club, a part of the country's largest grassroots environmental movement, and by Summit Trek and Travel, your connection for adventure travel. So thank you to our sponsors. We'll begin our live Q&A in just a moment, but for those who have to log off, it's been great to be here with you. We look forward to seeing you next Thursday.
And I'm going to stop screen sharing here just so that we can see each other a little bit better. And I'm going to attempt to make it so that you all can unmute yourself, which I think I just did. I think you now have the ability to unmute yourself. So if you have any questions that you'd like to ask or any way you'd like to add to the discussion, maybe you got some other great ideas like the black odor-proof waste bag that I already forgot. Marty? Maybe Marty was the one who put that in there?
Yep.
Or anything else like that to share that's relevant to this topic. We would love to have that conversation with you.
And Julia said this was a great session. Thank you so much for all the information and the fun way it was presented. Well, thank you, Julia.
Yes, thank you very much. Yeah. Oh, it looks like there was an issue with the poll results, but that's been taken care of. So, okay, we're good there.
Yeah.
Okay. I just was about to ask a question and I forgot what it was.
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, it's okay. I may have forgotten anyway. Oh, no, it wasn't a question. I was going to mention that next week we'll be doing Oh Shoot Part 2. Just oh shit. I wasn't sure if we should say it that way, but Denise already broke the ice for that. So oh shit Part 2, which is going to cover it's going to cover some of the first aid side of things for those different types of common injuries that we talked about. It will not be a first aid class. It's not a first aid class. And we totally recommend that you get properly trained in first aid, but it will give you some guidelines on things that you should prepare for and some really basic things to take care of. And then we will also be talking about animal protocols. So that's the second thing that I hear people worry about a lot is what if there's a bear? What if there's a bear? So we'll be talking about bears and other animals and what are some good practices to be sure you don't have any unfortunate incidents or anything scary happen. And that'll be next Thursday, same time, same place. So
And I just want to mention to everyone, you know, the more you backpack, the more you figure out what works for you, both for, like, say, if we use a pea bandana, it might not work for you. Or say the camp towel. The camp towel does come in handy too, or 2 bandanas if you're on a longer hike and you're going to be somewhere where there's a shower. They don't typically provide you towels at a hostel or
True.
someplace. So a larger towel, you know, a small camp towel would help. But again, you'll figure out what works best for you. These are pretty strong things that we shared with you that are in regards to leave no trace. So, but again, they are important, but you will figure out what works out best for you. And once you do it a couple times, it's like,
Yeah.
it's a lot better than some of the latrines or the privies you come
Oh
up
yeah.
with. So,
I'd far
yeah.
rather use a cat hole than most
Yeah.
of those privies. We have a really great question from Mary Ann. She's saying, do you think overnight backpacking / camping is superior to day hikes? Do you get a chance to see things you wouldn't otherwise? I don't know that I'm ambitious to carry all that gear. Becky's hopping in there. Absolutely worth it. You can get further away from everything.
Right.
So I think we should each answer that one. I say absolutely it's worth it. You get to be in a place where way fewer other people are going to be when you are off backpacking, which means you can actually enjoy like the peace and quiet of nature. You're more likely to see wildlife and see things that haven't been messed up by people. But for me, the best part is that when you get to go out like that, it just strips away all of the extraneous stuff that you have to deal with on a daily basis. Because when you're out backpacking, you're mainly worried about, you know, do I have enough food? Where am I going to sleep tonight? And where's my next water source? And then nothing else matters. So you can spend all the rest of your energy and focus just on absorbing the experience and the beautiful surroundings and whatever companions you're hiking with. So that's my answer. What do you guys say?
I totally agree that yeah, it just gives you the ability to get to where not everyone gets to go to, and yeah, just kind of reinforcing everything that's in the chat box and everything that Nancy just said. That you know, I think it depends on why you want to go out and why you enjoy the outdoors too, because there's a lot that you can get to in day hikes or even by car, and everyone has to find the mode that they're comfortable with. But that being said, I appreciate the solitude, and I appreciate the scenery, and you get to, given just the way geography is, and that it takes kind of abandoning cars and trains and buses to kind of get to some of these really special places. Yeah, it's and you will find it worth it. You'll find the appreciation in it if you do it.
Yeah.
I agree with you, Nancy and Barry. And the other thing is, you're out there and you really do lose sight of everything from where you came from, and it's just like all your worries are gone. In addition to, it's just so peaceful, and it's just, I don't know. It just changes you, and then you realize, oh wow, I got everything I need to survive just in my backpack, you know. And then you get home and you go, well, I don't really need all this stuff, you know, kind of stuff
Right.
in your house and things. But it's one of my favorite things to do is backpack. And you can really find a lot of places where there aren't any people, that's for sure.
It's Jill. I think I'm unmuted, and I think I just, after attending 2 classes, figured out how to turn my camera on.
Oh, it's nice to
Hey,
see you, Jill.
Yeah.
Getting a little dark out, but you can kind of see the night sky behind me here in North Carolina.
Aha.
Awesome.
Well, here, I'll hold
Great.
my camera up so you can see it. I'm not backpacking, but it's almost the next best. So we're right on a lake. It's
That
so
looks beautiful.
Nice.
And able to swim every day. But thank you. It was really interesting hearing your last comment. And I call it, when I go camping, it's kind of like playing house. and you're so busy setting up your tent, and for me, getting everything where I want it so I can find it when it's dark, that you block out everything else. It's like my yoga. It's your concentration. You're just thinking about what you're doing, and it's so much fun. And then I know there are times where we've just gotten so silly and laughed so
That's for sure.
when I didn't think I could do that anymore. And you just lose all your self-consciousness, and it's great.
Yeah.
So I hope that these times get behind us, and I'll get out again and be able to join you.
Oh, you
Me
will.
too.
Yeah.
It will. We will get there.
I hope. And congratulations on the new grandbaby.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm actually at the new grandbaby's house right now, so we're coming to you from a remote location tonight.
Wow. But they're in Cincinnati.
Yeah, they're in Cincinnati, close to where I live, so it's good all the way around. Thanks,
Okay.
Jill.
That's what we're doing in North Carolina. So.
Nice. Good for you.
In Ohio. But anyway, thank you again. Great classes, and I hope to be able to join some more.
Awesome. Well, thank you,
you.
Jill. We look forward to seeing you again. Look forward to
All
seeing
right.
you out on the trail eventually too.
Great to see everyone.
So it looks like we've gotten all the questions that are in the chat box. It's 8:31, so I guess we will go ahead and wrap things up. Bye, Renee. It's good to see you.
Yeah.
And
Becky.
Hope to see you all next
Jill.
Thursday, and we'll continue the saga.
All right.
Have a
Bye,
great
everyone. Thank you.
Bye,
Thanks,
everybody.
everyone.